Member for Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. And oh my, what a contribution to follow there. There's so much to pick up on. The member for Warrandyte commenced with quoting polling from Redbridge Polling, very credible polling organisation, of course, but on this side of the House, it's not polling that we're worried about, it's actually election results. And I refer the member not to Redbridge's polling, but to the result in Dunkley on the weekend. They didn't vote for a nuclear reactor by Peter Dutton in Dunkley, and they didn't vote for a non-existent opposition leader in John Pizzuto not showing up to Dunkley. They voted for an Albanese Labor government, which is taking real action on climate change.
Point of order.
Saying that he's crossed the line.
I'll bring the member back to the bill before the House.
Speaker, and I meant to refer to the member for Hawthorn. My apologies, but to quote somebody here, I mean, we've really seen it all now, to be honest. I mean, Frank Costanza, serenity now, serenity now. We've seen the show about nothing. We've got the opposition about nothing when it comes to climate change. We really do. An opposition about nothing, an opposition about nuclear reactors, Tony Abbott standing on what he stands against, not what for repealing the CPRS, Kennett selling the SRC, Prime Minister Scott Morrison walking with a lump of coal into the federal parliament, mind you. They frankly don't believe in climate change.
Point of order.
Your ruling.
I'll bring the member for Pascoe Vale back to the bill, please.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. And in that respect, I do rise to speak in support of the State Electricity Commission and Amendment Bill. And I'm proud to support and acknowledge the passage earlier on in this chamber of the Constitution Amendment SEC Bill, which this chamber considered earlier this evening. And Speaker, when combined, these two bills help give effect to the Victorian Labor Government's election commitments to revive the State Electricity Commission, the SEC, and to enshrine the new SEC in the Victorian Constitution, so we can ensure this important institution is protected into the future and importantly protected from the Liberals wanting to sell it off again. And Speaker, alongside the provision of good jobs, kinders, schools, transport infrastructure, health, community services and keeping downward pressures on the cost of living, there's frankly no more important issues for government than taking real action on climate change and to protect our environment. Because without a sustainable, hospitable and livable environment, life on Earth frankly would quite be very, very different. I'm going to take a bit of a different route here, Acting Speaker, but it's very much relevant. Nearly 10 years ago, NASA launched the Kepler Space Telescope on a revolutionary mission to expand our scientific understanding of the cosmos. Over that time, it observed 530,000 stars and confirmed the existence of at least 2,600 new planets. However, combined with Kepler and the myriad of other land and space-based telescopes, radio antennas and people with tinfoil hats, even on the other side of the chamber and around the globe, we are yet to find any sign of another habitable planet like Earth that's capable of hosting any form of life, let alone intelligent life. So, Speaker, if we need a demonstration of why our planet is so precious and why we all have a duty as lawmakers to protect it, to reduce our emissions and to move towards a renewable and more sustainable future, I just ask members to reflect on our planet's place in the vastness of the universe. Situated we are here on Earth in the Goldilocks zone in our solar system that is not too close but not too far from the sun, accompanied by a rich and dense atmosphere, life on Earth has been able to evolve over many thousands of years due to the general stable nature of our environment. However, this is something we cannot simply take for granted because, as scientists have been telling us, human-induced activity, particularly following the Industrial Revolution, the proliferation of fossil fuel use, deforestation and pollution has been impacting the state of our climate environment for many years. And as stated by the United Nations, the opposition might want to learn this definition. Climate change refers to a change of climate which is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of global atmosphere and which is in addition to natural climate variability observed over comparable time periods. And Speaker, as set out in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 2021, each of the last 4 decades has been warmer than the last decade that preceded it since 1850. The IPCC's report has stated that, quote, human influence has warmed the climate at a rate that is unprecedented in 2,000 years. The IPCC has stated that the likely range of total human-caused global surface temperature increase from 1850 to 2019 has ranged from between 0.8 degrees up to 1.3 degrees higher. And Acting Speaker, according to the Bureau of Meteorology and CSIRO, Australia's climate has also warmed by an average of 1.47 degrees Celsius since national records began in 1910, with a decline of rainfall between 15% to 19% since 1970 in the southwest area of Australia. And the fact is that these temperature rises have correlated with significant increases of human-generated greenhouse gas emissions over these periods around the world, with some of the highest carbon dioxide levels on Earth now being recorded or recently recorded in the atmosphere for at least 2 million years. In Victoria, for example, Acting Speaker, the electricity sector currently generates around 50% of our state's total carbon emissions, and we have a responsibility and a duty to reduce these, to play our role in global efforts to combat climate change. Acting Speaker, as stated by the World Economic Forum, if the opposition won't listen to the scientists, they can listen to the economists. The COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow was the first time the international community agreed explicitly to mention the burning of fossil fuels as the primary cause of climate change, with the IPCC report published recently explicitly highlighting the need to rapidly phase out fossil fuel supply and demand, including coal by 95%, oil by 60% and gas by 45% by 2050. And furthermore, Speaker, the 21 IPCC report shows that we must be collectively working to keep warming well below 2 degrees Celsius and below ideally 1.5 degrees to avoid and mitigate against the worst economic, environmental, extreme weather events, societal degeneration impacts that are associated with rising emissions and the changing of our climate. And that's why, Acting Speaker, I'm so proud to be part of the Victorian Labor Government that is very much leading the nation, indeed many jurisdictions around the world, when it comes to taking that real action to combat climate change. Last sitting week, of course, we passed the bill that would legislate the most ambitious and realistic carbon emissions and renewable energy targets in the world. We've legislated interim emission targets of 28 to 33% below 2005 levels by 2025, 45 to 50% below 2005 levels by 2030, and 75 to 80% below 2005 levels by 2035. And of course, we're working and striving towards that net zero by 2045. Along with $3 billion invested into renewable energy infrastructure, we've also amended the Renewable Energy Jobs Act to set forward some of the most ambitious renewable energy targets, including 50% renewable electricity to 65% electricity renewable by 2030. We've set a new target of 95% renewable electricity by 2035, and we've set a new energy storage targets of at least 2.6 gigawatts of energy storage capacity by 2030 and at least 6.3 gigawatts by 2035. And of course, we've set new offshore wind energy targets of at least 2 gigawatts by 2032, 4 gigawatts by 2035 and 9 gigawatts by 2040. And additionally, we've also, of course, embedded our climate goals as part of the state's planning framework to ensure councils take into consideration the impacts of climate change. And that's why this bill builds on that work that we've been doing, Speaker, amending the Constitution to embed the SEC so it can't be sold off again. But also, of course, we're abolishing the pre-existing State Electricity Commission, SECV, that is constituted under the SEC Act to avoid confusion with the new SEC entity. And Speaker, these measures do help build on the previous acts we've been taken. Between 2005 and 2021, our nation-leading climate agenda has helped drive a 32.3% reduction in statewide emissions. Over this time, our economy has grown. It has grown, I repeat, 42.8%. And of course, these bills here, the bill before us today, the one earlier, do build on so many of the other landmark initiatives we've continued to pursue. Bringing back the SEC, we've ended old growth forest logging, we've ended native forest logging, the rollout of rooftop solar electrification on homes, the introduction of the gas substitution roadmap, the rollout of the container deposit scheme, which the opposition criticised only a few weeks ago, but is, as of the other day, 250 million containers. They can't be wrong. 250 million containers. The Victorians have called for it, and it's rolling out, and it's working. And of course, our record investment into local parks, creeks, waterways, and local biodiversity. And of course, all of these things mean jobs. The State Electricity SEC Training Centre of Excellence is a key component of that to help us reach the target of 59,000 new jobs. We're undertaking a business case to pursue that, which my community is very, very interested in. And of course, the container deposit scheme. In my local community, we've got 4 vending machine sites, 12 over-the-counter sites, vending machine sites at 10 Moreland Road, Brunswick, 59 Sydney Road, Coburg, 801 Sydney Road, Brunswick. And I really had the pleasure on the 12th of February 2024 to open the Dairy Drive in Coburg North, facility, which is operated by Green Collect, recognised as Australia's Social Enterprise of the Year in 2019, and the depot is employing dozens of disadvantaged job seekers from the northwest, and it's already received 90,000 containers and counting as of December. And I commend Tony Circelli from Tomra, Tony Catania from Recycling Victoria, Sally Quinn and Darren Andrews, who are the co-founders of Green Collect. But it's also in our creeks. We're making record investments, Acting Speaker, as well, and to take action on climate, biodiversity and recreational outcomes. We've invested $10 million to upgrade the Moonee Ponds Creek corridor, of course, to renaturalise the corridor. But just last week, I announced a record $605,000 more to our local creeks, including $460,000 for the Mary Creek to create a biodiversity and refuge habitat with the member for Preston and Northgate, $115,900 for the Eggers Creek corridor to revegetate that, and $25,400 further for the Moonee Ponds Creek. In that respect, I commend this bill.